The man rescued the alien queen's sister, and the offer that followed was completely unexpected. John Carter had always been a man who liked quiet. He flew a small salvage ship near the edge of human space, far from crowded stations and busy trade routes. He liked the silence of space, the hum of his ship's engines, and the glow of stars outside his window. Space was dangerous, yes, but it had a kind of order he understood. Everything moved in predictable paths. Unlike people, things in space did not lie or betray. On this particular day, John was scanning the debris of an old battle. The fight had happened years ago, but the remains of ships still floated among the asteroid field. He had salvaged these ships before, selling parts to mechanics and traders on nearby colonies. It was a simple life, and he liked it that way. As he moved closer to a broken alien cruiser, his sensors picked up something unusual. A small escape pod had drifted into view. Its hull was cracked and its life support systems were weak. He frowned. Most of the time, these pods carried nothing but the dead, but this one showed faint signs of life. John hesitated. He had seen many dangers in space, and helping others could get him killed. Enemy ships could be nearby, pirates could be watching, or the pod could be trapped with explosives. But he could not ignore it. Something inside him told him that whoever was inside needed help, and if he did not act, she would die. He carefully maneuvered his ship closer. His hands moved over the controls with practiced skill. The pod's signal was weak, but it was enough to guide him. When he finally reached it, he opened the docking clamps and slowly pulled it inside. The pod hissed, releasing a cloud of recycled air. Inside, he found her. She was not human. Her skin had a faint shimmer like moonlight on water. Her eyes were closed and her breathing was shallow. Her body was small and fragile, but there was something about her that spoke of strength. She had royal markings, delicate symbols on her neck and shoulders that glowed faintly. She was clearly important. John did not know her name and she could not speak, but he knew she was alive, and that was enough. He set her on a soft bed in the medical section of his ship. He began to check her injuries, simple first aid at first: bruises, cuts, broken bones, and weak blood circulation. She had been through a fight, a dangerous one, and barely survived. As he worked, his mind wandered. Who was she? Why was she here? And most importantly, what would happen if someone came looking for her? He knew the answers could be dangerous. This pod did not drift here by accident. Someone had sent her away, or someone had tried to kill her. Hours passed. John monitored her vitals, adjusted her oxygen levels, and gave her small doses of medicine he had on board. Slowly, her breathing became stronger. Her eyes opened once, flickering like stars. She looked at him but did not speak. Her gaze was full of fear but also trust. "I'm John," he said quietly. "I'm not going to hurt you." She blinked and a faint sound came from her throat. It was not human, but it was a word. He could not understand it, but it was enough to know she was trying to communicate. He smiled softly. "It's okay. You are safe here." The ship's sensors suddenly beeped loudly. John froze. He had not expected any company, but now he saw several enemy ships on the scanners. They were fast, armed, and scanning the area. Whoever had sent this pod, or whoever wanted her dead, was now nearby. John felt a surge of determination. He had one choice: run or fight. Running was safer, but it would not guarantee her survival. Fighting was dangerous, but humans had a strange way of surviving, often against all odds. He decided to fight. He quickly plotted a course through the asteroid field, using the debris as cover. Enemy ships moved fast, but they were not used to navigating such narrow spaces. John's ship was smaller and more maneuverable. He dodged and weaved, using the knowledge he had gained over years in space. Every movement was careful, every decision critical. Meanwhile, the alien woman watched him. Her eyes followed every action, her body tense but trusting. She did not understand his language, but she understood his intentions. She realized that he had chosen to save her and that humans were not always weak. The enemy ships fired. Lasers cut through space, striking asteroids and sending fragments flying. John's ship shook with each near hit. He adjusted the shields, fired back with his small weapons, and used the asteroids as shields. His hands moved quickly but with calm control. Every move counted. After what felt like hours, though it was only minutes, John managed to shake most of the attackers. The remaining ships followed at a distance, unwilling to risk crashing in the asteroid field. He breathed heavily, looking back at the alien woman. She was awake, sitting up slightly and watching him with a look of awe. "You're lucky," he said softly, "but we are not safe yet." She tried to speak again, and this time John heard her voice more clearly, though still strange. Lysera, she whispered. He nodded, understanding that this was her name. Lysera. John smiled gently. Lysera, I'm glad you can say your name. I promise I'll keep you safe. For the rest of the day, John monitored the scanners and repaired minor damage to the ship. He spoke to Lysera quietly, explaining what he could. She listened carefully, nodding and attempting words that he could barely understand. Though they came from different worlds, a small bond was forming. That night, as the ship drifted through the silent stars, John looked at her sleeping. She had wounds and scars, but there was resilience in her. He thought about what this meant. By saving her, he had entered a conflict he barely understood. The galaxy was larger, stranger, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Yet he did not feel fear. He felt determination. Humans had a way of surviving that no one expected. He would do what he had to do, not just to survive, but to protect someone who could change the course of the galaxy. As the ship moved silently through the dark, John made a decision. He would not run. He would not hide. He would face whatever came, because he had chosen to save Lysera. And by doing so, he had set in motion events that no one, not even the queen of her empire, could predict. He turned off the lights in the small cabin and leaned back in his chair, watching the stars. Lysera stirred slightly, a soft sound escaping her lips. He smiled. Don't worry, he whispered. We will make it. And in that quiet moment, human courage began its first ripple in a galaxy that had never taken humans seriously. The next morning, John woke to find Lysera sitting up in the small cabin. Her body was weak, but she had regained some strength. Her eyes glowed faintly in the soft light of the ship's instruments. She looked around cautiously, still unsure of her surroundings. John smiled gently. Good morning, how do you feel? Lysera tried to answer, but her voice was soft and broken. Better, thanks, John nodded. You're safe here. Nothing is going to hurt you while I'm with you. She studied him carefully. There was something in her gaze that was hard to read. It was trust mixed with fear and a hint of curiosity. She wanted to know about him, about humans, but words were not enough. John realized that communication would take time, patience, and understanding. For the next few hours, John explained as much as he could. He showed her the ship's controls, the small kitchen where he made food, and the medical equipment. Lysera listened quietly, her head tilted, eyes wide with wonder. She had never seen a human ship like this before. Everything was small, practical, and simple, yet it was strong enough to survive in the dangerous reaches of space. John watched her carefully. He could see that she was royal, that her people were not like humans. There was a grace in her movements, a calm confidence even though she was weak. He felt respect for her, even though he did not yet understand the politics or power she carried. As the day passed, John realized he needed answers. Why were you in that pod? He asked gently. Why were people trying to hurt you? Lysera hesitated. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched her arm. They wanted me gone, she whispered. I sister, Queen Valeth. They wanted her to surrender. I escaped. John's brow furrowed. He did not fully understand, but he got the idea. Someone had attacked her to force her sister, the queen, to do something against her will. Humans did not know much about alien politics, but he understood danger. Whoever had attacked her was powerful and ruthless. They won't stop, he said quietly. They will keep looking for you. Lysera nodded, her eyes darkening with worry. I know, you helped me, I thank you. John felt a strange warmth inside. He had done what he believed was right, and it mattered. Not only had he saved a life, but he had also changed the course of events he could not yet see. Humans had a strange way of making a difference, often when others underestimated them. The day passed with careful attention. John repaired minor damage to the ship, checked the fuel and life support systems, and kept a watch on the scanners. He knew they were not alone. Somewhere in the vastness of space, someone was searching for Lysera, and she would not be safe until they reached a place of power and protection. As they traveled, John and Lysera began to understand each other in small ways. Words were limited, but gestures, expressions, and shared actions created a connection. John learned that she preferred quiet and order, that she noticed details others missed, and that she was intelligent and cautious. Lysera learned that John was brave, clever, and stubborn, willing to risk his life to save someone he barely knew. By the third day, Lysera could move more freely. She helped John with minor tasks on the ship, handing him tools, checking sensors, and assisting with repairs. Her movements were careful, precise, and graceful. John realized that even in her weakness, she was a natural leader. Humans had instincts, but aliens like her had training and knowledge that made them dangerous in ways humans were not. One evening, as the small ship floated through a quiet sector of space, the scanners picked up a signal. It was faint but unmistakable. Someone was trying to track them. John's eyes narrowed. "They found us," he said softly. Lysera tensed. "They come?" she asked. John shook his head. "Not yet, but soon. We need to be ready." He plotted a course that would take them through a dense asteroid field. It was risky, but he knew his ship could navigate it better than the enemy ships could. Lysera watched him, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. She had seen many things in her life, but humans were unpredictable, and in ways she had not expected strong. The next hours were tense. John focused on the controls, dodging asteroids, adjusting shields, and keeping an eye on the scanners. Lysera assisted, pointing out incoming debris and warning him of weak spots in the hull. Together they moved like a team, humans and aliens working together in silence and understanding. As night fell, Lysera spoke quietly. "John, why help me?" John smiled faintly, keeping his eyes on the controls. "Because it was the right thing to do. No one deserves to die when they cannot defend themselves. Besides, humans have a strange way of surviving. Sometimes helping someone else makes us stronger too." Lysera looked at him for a long moment. She did not fully understand, but she felt it. Humans were not like her people. They were smaller, weaker, and their technology was limited, yet they had courage, determination, and stubbornness that made them dangerous. She realized that John had risked his life for her, not for power, not for reward, but because it was the right choice. Hours later, John prepared for the inevitable. Enemy ships were approaching, their signals stronger now. He adjusted weapons, tested engines, and briefed Lysera on what to expect. She nodded, calm and ready. Even though she was an alien princess, she trusted him to lead to protect her. The attack came just after midnight. Enemy ships appeared on the scanners, faster and more powerful than John had expected. They fired warning shots, trying to intimidate him into surrendering. John's hands moved quickly over the controls, dodging lasers, firing back with his small weapons, and using the asteroids as cover. Every move was precise, every decision critical. Lysera watched from the cabin, heart pounding. She had seen battles before, but never like this. Humans had no massive fleets, no advanced shields, and yet John moved his small ship with skill and courage. She realized that humans were unpredictable, that their courage made them dangerous in ways aliens often underestimated. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, John managed to escape the initial attack. The enemy ships followed at a distance, unwilling to risk crashing in the asteroid field. He breathed heavily, relieved for the moment, but aware that the danger was far from over. Lysera approached him cautiously. "You clever," she said softly. "Humans surprising," John chuckled. "We have to be, otherwise we do not survive." She studied him carefully. There was something in his eyes that told her humans were not weak. They were small, fragile in appearance, but their minds and spirits were strong. She felt respect and admiration, emotions she had rarely felt for another species. The rest of the night passed quietly. John repaired minor damage to the ship, monitored the scanners, and kept a watch over Lysera. He realized that by saving her, he had not only changed her fate, but had also stepped into a larger story. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, and yet here he was, standing against enemies far stronger than himself. By dawn, Lysera could sit comfortably and eat a small meal. She thanked John again, her voice still soft but filled with sincerity. "You saved me." "I owe you," John shook his head. "No debt, just survive, that is enough." He knew that the journey ahead would be harder. Lysera's enemies would not give up, and her sister, the Queen, was powerful and influential. But he also knew something else. Humans had a way of turning impossible situations into victories. They were clever, stubborn, and courageous. That combination made them dangerous to anyone who underestimated them. As the small ship drifted through the silent stars, John looked at Lysera and realized that this was only the beginning. He had saved her life, but he had also stepped into a galaxy-wide conflict he barely understood. Still, he did not feel fear. He felt determination. He felt the strength of humans, quiet but powerful, ready to face challenges no one thought they could survive. Lysera watched him as well, understanding something she had never realized before. Humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, bold, and capable of acts that even the strongest alien empires could not imagine. She felt a strange hope, a belief that perhaps with this human by her side, she could survive, and her sister's empire could remain free from the forces that sought to destroy them. And so the small ship moved forward, carrying two beings from different worlds. One was a human, simple and determined. The other was an alien princess, fragile yet strong. Together, they were beginning a journey that would change the course of the galaxy, and no one yet understood the ripple that had begun with a simple act of courage. The enemy ships were relentless. John Carter's small salvage vessel cut through the darkness of space, weaving between asteroids and debris from long-forgotten battles. He kept his hands steady on the controls, eyes focused on the scanners. Every movement mattered. A single mistake could mean death for him and for Lysera. Lysera watched quietly from her seat. She had regained more strength but was still weak. Her eyes followed every action of John, trying to understand his decisions. She had seen war before, but humans fought differently. They were unpredictable, and that unpredictability made them dangerous. The first enemy ship appeared ahead, a large cruiser with sleek black armor and glowing red engines. It fired warning lasers, small enough to scare, but enough to make John take action. He accelerated, dodging behind a large asteroid, letting the ship's shields absorb a few glancing hits. "They are fast," Lysera whispered, gripping the edge of her seat. John glanced at her briefly. "Faster than I expected, but not smart. They do not know this field like I do." He pushed the throttle forward, weaving between the jagged rocks. The enemy ship followed, firing intermittently. John fired back with his small cannons, careful not to waste energy. He aimed for engines and shields, small but precise strikes that caused confusion. Lysera's eyes widened. "You hit them," John nodded without looking away from the controls. "Every shot counts. You do not need a giant ship to win a fight. You need a brain and patience." The alien cruiser swerved, trying to predict his movements, but John knew the field better. He led the ship through narrow gaps that were too small for the larger enemies. The cruiser hesitated, its systems struggling to adjust. John took the chance, firing again, hitting a wing that caused a chain reaction. Small explosions erupted across the ship's hull and it veered off course, damaged and retreating. Lysera leaned forward, amazed. "Humans clever." John gave a small smile. "We survive by thinking fast, that is all." More ships appeared on the scanners. They had not expected one human to fight back, and now they approached carefully. John adjusted the shields and positioned the ship behind a thick asteroid cluster. The rocks would block laser fire, but navigating through them required skill and precision. He took a deep breath. "We are not out yet, they will try again." Lysera nodded. She trusted him completely now. Her body was still weak, but her mind was sharp. She studied the scanners, learning the patterns of the enemy, pointing out incoming fire and weak spots in the field. Together, they formed a team, human and alien, working in sync. The second attack came from multiple directions. Smaller fighter ships swarmed around the asteroid field, trying to corner John's ship. He fired carefully, dodging the first wave of attacks, letting the rocks and debris shield him. He aimed for engines, shields, and weapons, making precise strikes that disabled several fighters. Lysera gasped. "You, small ship, beat many?" John shrugged. "It is not size that matters. It is how you use what you have. Humans are small, yes, but stubborn and clever." As they fought, Lysera noticed something else. Humans had a strange courage that aliens often underestimated. John did not panic, did not freeze, and did not give up even when the odds were against him. His determination gave her hope, and she realized that humans were not weak. They could survive and sometimes even win where others thought it impossible. Hours passed. John and Lysera moved through the field, avoiding larger cruisers and destroying smaller fighters. Every victory was small, but it gave them breathing room. Still, the enemy numbers were overwhelming. John knew they could not fight forever. They needed a plan, a way to escape or turn the tide. He plotted a route toward a nearby nebula, a dense cloud of gas and debris that could hide them from sensors. The path was narrow and dangerous, but it offered a chance to lose the pursuing ships. Lysera watched as he calculated speed, distance, and angles with a skill that surprised her. Humans were not just clever, they were fast thinkers. "Can we hide there?" she asked. John nodded. "We have to try. It is risky, but it may be our only chance." They entered the nebula cautiously. Visibility dropped, and the ship's sensors struggled with interference. John relied on instinct and knowledge of physics, feeling the ship move through the dense gas. Enemy sensors were disrupted, and the chasing ships had difficulty following. Lysera held her breath as lasers cut through the mist around them. John guided the ship carefully, narrowly avoiding collisions with floating rocks and electrical storms in the nebula. Small sparks danced across the ship's hull, but John remained calm. After tense minutes, the nebula thickened enough to mask their presence. John slowed the ship, peeking cautiously from behind the dense gas. The enemy ships passed by, unable to track them. They had survived the first wave of attacks, but the fight was far from over. Lysera looked at him with a mixture of relief and admiration. "You, human, amazing," John smiled faintly. "Just doing what I have to do. You taught me patience. We survived because we worked together." She nodded. "I trust you, you clever, brave, different." John's gaze softened. "Humans are small, yes, but we survive. Sometimes we do things no one expects. That is all we have to do." The rest of the day passed quietly. They stayed inside the nebula, monitoring sensors and repairing minor damage. Lysera helped where she could, handing tools, checking instruments, and learning the systems. John noticed how quickly she adapted. Even after being attacked and nearly killed, she was learning, observing, and contributing. Her intelligence and calmness impressed him. John thought about the future. Lysera's enemies would not give up, and her sister, the Queen, ruled a powerful empire. By saving her, he had placed himself in a galaxy-wide conflict. Yet he felt no fear. Humans were strong in ways others did not see. They were clever, stubborn, and willing to take risks. That combination made them unpredictable and dangerous. By night, Lysera rested while John watched the ship. He knew the enemy would return, perhaps with more forces. They could not hide forever. He would need to plan an escape or a way to fight that gave them an advantage. Humans had a way of turning even desperate situations into victories. He believed that instinctively. Lysera woke briefly and looked at him. "John, humans, strong," he smiled. "We have to be. Otherwise, we do not survive." She studied him silently, realizing that human courage was not about power or weapons. It was about determination, intelligence, and the willingness to face danger without surrendering. She had seen many races in the galaxy, but humans were unique. They could survive, and they could change events in ways no one predicted. As the nebula's clouds shifted and the ship moved silently through space, John made a decision. He would not run forever. He would not hide. He would fight, protect Lysera, and survive. Humans had done the impossible many times, and he believed they could do it again. Lysera sensed his determination. She felt a strange hope, a trust in this small human who had risked everything for her. Together, they were beginning to show what humans could do. They were not powerful by alien standards, but they were clever, courageous, and relentless, and that made them dangerous. The night passed slowly, but John remained vigilant. Enemy ships could strike at any moment. Lysera slept, safe for now, but the battle was far from over. John adjusted the ship's trajectory, ready for whatever came next. He knew that human courage and determination would be tested. And he knew that no one, not even the strongest alien fleets, should underestimate what a human could do when fighting for what was right. When dawn approached, the nebula began to thin and the small ship prepared to leave. John checked the systems one last time. The path ahead was dangerous, but he felt ready. Humans often faced impossible odds, and often they survived because they refused to surrender. Lysera awoke looking out at the stars. "John, you clever human," he nodded. "We survived, that is all that matters." Together they moved out of the nebula, ready to face the galaxy again. Enemy ships could be waiting, but John Carter and Lysera had already survived the impossible. And as they moved forward, the human courage that no one had taken seriously began to show itself. This was only the beginning. The real test was yet to come, and John knew that humans, small and underestimated, could make a difference no one expected. Lysera realized it too. They were not just fleeing or hiding. They were learning, growing, and showing the galaxy that humans were dangerous in ways that could not be ignored. After escaping the nebula, John Carter carefully guided the small ship toward the coordinates Lysera had shown him. They were heading to the capital of her empire, a planet that was heavily guarded and full of political intrigue. John had never been anywhere like it, but he felt determined. Humans might be small and underestimated, but they had a strange ability to survive and adapt. Lysera sat beside him, watching as he navigated through space. She had regained more strength since their escape, and her confidence had grown. She knew the queen would be cautious when they arrived. Her sister, Queen Valith, was a strong ruler, respected and feared across the galaxy. Lysera was nervous but trusted John. He had saved her life, and she believed he could help her navigate the dangers ahead. The approach to the capital planet was tense. John's sensors detected patrol ships circling the planet, scanning for any unauthorized vessels. "We need to be careful," John said quietly. "One wrong move and they will fire." Lysera nodded. "They expect visitors?" she asked softly. John shook his head. "Not like us. They are probably wondering why a human is bringing a royal pod to their capital." Lysera gave him a small smile. Despite the tension, she felt a strange hope. Humans were unexpected, clever, and bold. John had already proven that, and she believed he could face anything, even the most powerful fleets in her empire. John adjusted the ship's shields and set a course for the capital's main docking station. The landing was tricky. The station was massive, surrounded by armed guards and defense systems. Any mistake could trigger an alarm or attack. He relied on skill and careful timing, guiding the ship past sensors and avoiding the main patrol routes. When they finally docked, Lysera and John were met by a squad of armored guards. They wore dark uniforms with symbols of the Queen's authority. Lysera recognized them immediately and gave a small bow. John simply raised his hands in greeting. "Who is this human?" one of the guards asked, voice sharp and suspicious. Lysera stepped forward. "He saved me. John Carter, he is human. He helped me escape." The guards exchanged glances. Humans were considered weak by most alien empires, and having one involved in royal matters was unusual. They whispered among themselves but did not interfere. Lysera led John through the hallways of the station, past vast chambers filled with soldiers, administrators, and diplomats. The human's eyes widened as he took in the sights. Everything was grand, elegant, and clearly designed to show power and authority. Finally, they arrived at a massive chamber. At the far end, seated on a high throne, was Queen Valith. She looked regal, powerful, and calm. Her eyes were sharp, and she studied them as they entered. She had heard about the human already, and her curiosity was piqued. "You have brought a human to my court," the queen said, her voice steady but curious. "Explain why I should not have him arrested immediately." Lysera stepped forward. "Sister, he saved me. Without him, I would be dead. He risked his life to protect me from our enemies." Queen Valith's eyes narrowed slightly. She studied John, noting his calm demeanor and steady gaze. He was small, weaker in appearance, and yet he had a confidence she had not expected. There was something in his presence that commanded attention. John bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I did what I believed was right. I did not think of reward or recognition. I only wanted to keep her safe." The queen regarded him silently for a moment. Then she spoke. "Humans are not usually involved in matters of our empire. You could have been killed or captured, and yet you risked your life for my sister. That is unusual." John nodded. "I understand. I am not here for power or politics. I only acted because it was the right thing to do. Humans survive by helping others when we can. It is who we are." Lysera looked at her sister, her eyes shining with relief and gratitude. "See, he is not like others. He different, brave." Queen Valith leaned forward slightly. "You are bold, human. Few dare to enter my territory, and even fewer survive. You have proven your courage, but courage alone does not explain why you are here. Speak truthfully. Why did you save her?" John took a deep breath. "Because no one deserves to die when they cannot defend themselves, because I could. And because humans have a strange way of surviving that others do not understand. I did what I had to do." The queen's eyes softened slightly. She had heard stories of humans before, but she had not believed them. They were small, fragile, and often underestimated. And yet this one had survived where others would have perished. He had risked himself for someone he barely knew. "You are not here for reward," she said quietly. "And you have no ambition to control or command. You act with purpose and determination. That is rare." John nodded. "I only want to ensure she is safe. That is enough." Lysera looked at the queen. "See, I told you, humans different, not weak." Queen Valith studied John carefully. She could see his courage, his intelligence, and his determination. She realized that humans might be small, but they were dangerous in ways her people did not often understand. One human had changed the outcome of events that could have led to disaster. "I will admit," the Queen said finally, "that your actions have disrupted plans that would have forced me to surrender. You have done something no one expected. You have shown bravery, intelligence, and cunning. Humans may be underestimated, but you are a reminder that size and strength alone do not determine power." John remained calm. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only acted as I believed was right." The Queen nodded slowly. "Your actions have earned my respect. But more than respect, they have drawn my curiosity. You have done what few could, and now I must consider what that means for our empire and for humanity." Lysera smiled softly. Human, saved me, not for power, not for reward, only for right." Queen Valeth's gaze softened. "You have shown what humans are capable of. Your courage and determination are unexpected. You have earned a place in this court if you wish. But more than that, you have the potential to change the way humans and my people see each other." John blinked, surprised. He had not expected reward or recognition. He had acted out of instinct and moral choice, not ambition. I do not seek power, Your Majesty. I only want to survive and help when I can." The Queen leaned back in her throne, thoughtful. "And yet, by acting as you did, you have already changed the course of events. You have saved my sister, disrupted our enemies, and shown that humans can be brave and clever. You have done more than any diplomat or soldier could have done." Lysera reached for John's hand. "See, humans important, they strong in ways others do not see." John smiled faintly. "I guess we are stronger than we look." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "You will have a place here, not because of power or rank, but because your actions demand it. You are a human, and yet you have shown courage and intelligence beyond expectation. That is rare in this galaxy." John nodded quietly. He had never sought recognition, but he understood the weight of her words. Humans were often underestimated, but this moment showed that one person, acting with courage and determination, could change the course of events. Lysera looked at her sister. "Thank you for seeing him, for trusting him." Queen Valeth smiled faintly. "It is not just trust. It is understanding. Humans are dangerous, clever, and unpredictable. This one has proven it, and perhaps it is time to see what humans can really do." John felt a strange sense of purpose. He had acted to save a life, and in doing so, he had earned the respect of a queen, the trust of an alien princess, and the recognition that humans, small and underestimated, could make a difference in ways no one expected. The Queen's advisors whispered among themselves, surprised by the unexpected turn of events. A human had entered their court, saved a royal life, and survived attacks that would have destroyed larger and stronger ships. It was unprecedented. John looked at Lysera, who gave him a small, grateful smile. "We survived," she whispered. "Yes," John replied quietly, "and we will continue to survive together." The Queen watched them both, realizing that humans might be small and underestimated, but they were brave, clever, and capable of acts that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. She knew that by acknowledging John Carter, she was acknowledging a new force, one that others might ignore but should never underestimate. John understood that his journey was far from over. He had saved Lysera, faced enemies, and gained the respect of a queen. But more challenges awaited. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Lysera, too, felt hope. She had trusted this human, and he had proven that courage, determination, and intelligence could overcome even the greatest dangers. Together, they were no longer just human and alien. They were a team, capable of surviving where others would fail. And so, in the great hall of the alien capital, a small human stood among powerful rulers and warriors, showing that courage and cleverness were stronger than size, strength, or reputation. For the first time, Queen Valeth truly understood the power of humans, and the ripple that one small act of bravery could create in the galaxy. After their long journey, John Carter stood in the great hall of the alien capital, beside Lysera. The Queen had listened to his story, observed his courage, and understood what humans were capable of. But now, there was a different energy in the room. The tension of battles, the fear of enemies, and the uncertainty of the future had settled into a quiet expectation. Something new was about to happen. Queen Valeth rose from her throne, her eyes calm but full of authority. "John Carter," she said, her voice echoing through the vast chamber, "you have acted in ways no human has before. You have saved my sister, survived attacks that would have destroyed larger forces, and demonstrated intelligence and courage beyond expectation. You have earned more than respect." John stood straight, not out of arrogance but out of understanding. He had never sought recognition, and he had never expected reward. He had acted because it was the right choice. But now, standing before the queen, he realized that his actions had consequences far beyond his own understanding. Queen Valith continued, "Humans have often been underestimated by my people, small, fragile, and considered weak. But you have proven that size and strength alone do not measure value. Determination, courage, and intelligence matter just as much, and in many ways more." Lysera looked at her sister, hope shining in her eyes. "See, John, important, humans, strong." The queen smiled faintly. "You have earned a place not just here, but in the future of our empire's relations with humanity. I offer you a position as a protector of the royal line. Not as a servant or soldier, but as a trusted guardian, equal in authority to our commanders." John blinked. He had not expected such an offer. Humans had never been given such recognition in the galaxy, let alone a position of trust and power within an alien empire. He looked at Lysera, who nodded encouragingly. She understood what this meant, not just for him, but for humanity. I am honored," John said finally. "But I did not act for reward. I only acted to save her, to do what was right. That is all I have ever wanted." Queen Valith nodded. "And yet, that is why you are worthy. You act not for power, not for recognition, but for principle. That is rare. That is why humans, small and underestimated, can achieve what empires do not expect. You have already changed events with a single act. Imagine what we can accomplish together." John felt a strange pride, not for himself but for humanity. For centuries, humans had been seen as weak, irrelevant in galactic affairs. And yet here he was, standing as proof that courage and intelligence could outshine technology and brute force. Lysera reached for his hand. "John, humans, not just survivors, important, brave." The queen observed the small gesture, recognizing the bond between the human and her sister. "This alliance," she said, "is unprecedented. It is not built on fear, as is common in politics, but on trust and respect. That is why you are offered this role. To ensure that humans are never underestimated again, and to help our empires work together for mutual benefit." John nodded slowly. He understood the gravity of the offer. It was more than a position. It was recognition of humanity's value, a chance to reshape how the galaxy viewed humans, and a responsibility to protect those who could not protect themselves. "I accept," he said finally. "Not for power, not for honor, but to ensure that humans are seen as they truly are. Brave, capable, and not to be underestimated." Queen Valith inclined her head, a small smile forming. "Then let it be so. John Carter, human, protector of the royal line, and ambassador to the future of humanity and our empire. May your actions continue to shape the galaxy in ways no one expects." The hall erupted in quiet acknowledgement. Advisors, guards, and diplomats all recognized that a human had achieved something unprecedented. Not by force, but by courage, intelligence, and determination. The ripple of one small human's choice had expanded to touch the entire empire. Lysera squeezed John's hand gently. "See, humans more than expected. We survive, we fight, we change things." John smiled faintly. "We do what we must, that is all." The queen gestured for them to follow her to a private chamber. There, she explained more about the responsibilities John would carry. He would act as a guardian of the royal family, a protector of Lysera and the queen herself, and a liaison between humans and the empire. His decisions would carry weight, and his actions could influence the course of future conflicts. John listened carefully. He understood that this was not just a personal honor. It was a chance to show the galaxy that humans were more than what others believed. They were clever, determined, and capable of actions that even the most powerful aliens could not predict. As they walked through the corridors of the palace, Lysera spoke quietly. "John, you changed everything. Not just me, humans, everyone see differently." John shook his head. "I only acted to save you. Everything else is a result. Humans survive, yes, but we also make choices. Sometimes small choices make big differences." Lysera smiled. "Your choice, big difference. Empire, see humans, not weak." The queen led them to a room overlooking the city. From the large windows, John could see fleets, towers, and bustling activity. The empire was vast and powerful, yet here he was, a single human, recognized as equal in value to their commanders. It was a strange feeling, but not uncomfortable. He understood that courage and principle were forces as strong as weapons or armies. "You will be trained," the queen said. "Not in the ways of humans, but in ours. You will learn our tactics, our politics, and our methods. And in turn, we will learn from you. Your ways are different, but they are effective. That is why you are here." John nodded. "I will do my best, not for myself, but for humanity and for Lysera." Lysera touched his shoulder gently. "We together, humans, strong, unexpected." Days passed, and John trained with the Empire's commanders. He learned strategies, defensive techniques, and the inner workings of the royal court. He shared human approaches, clever maneuvers, improvisation, and risk-taking that often surprised the alien officers. Slowly, he earned respect not just from the queen, but from soldiers and diplomats alike. Word spread across the empire. A human had saved a royal life, survived against powerful enemies, and earned a position of trust. Many were skeptical at first, but they began to see the truth. Humans were clever, resourceful, and brave. They could not be ignored. Lysera often stood beside him during training. She saw the change in perception, the way humans were beginning to be respected in ways she had never imagined. "See, John, humans change everything," she whispered. John smiled. "We do what we can. Sometimes small acts make the biggest differences." One evening after a long day of training, the queen called John to her chambers. She was alone, and her expression was serious but kind. "John Carter," she said, "your actions have changed the way my empire sees humanity. You have shown courage, intelligence, and honor. That is rare, and it must be recognized." John bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, I only acted as I believed was right. Everything else is a result." The queen smiled faintly. "Even so, the results matter. Humans will now be treated with respect, and your presence here ensures that our alliance is built on more than necessity. It is built on understanding, trust, and mutual benefit." John felt a quiet pride, not for himself but for humans. For centuries, they had been underestimated, ignored, and dismissed. And now, because of his actions, humans would be seen differently. They were small, yes, but capable. Brave, intelligent, and resourceful beyond measure. Lysera entered the room quietly, standing beside him. She touched his arm gently. "Humans respected, you did it. Together, we change things." The queen nodded. "Indeed, and there is more to come. The galaxy will watch humanity closely now because of you, not as weaklings, but as equals. That is a legacy no human has held before." John looked at her, then at Lysera. "I did not expect this, but I understand. Humans will survive, and sometimes we will shape events in ways no one predicts. That is who we are." Lysera smiled softly. "Yes, who we are. Humans, strong, brave, unexpected." The queen observed them, realizing that one small act of courage had shifted the balance of perception across an empire. A human, small and underestimated, had not only saved a life but had changed the future of relations between species. It was a reminder that courage, principle, and determination could alter the course of history. John knew the journey was not over. Challenges would come, and enemies would test him again. But he also knew something important. Humans were underestimated, yes, but they were clever, brave, and capable. One person, acting with principle, could make a difference. And now, with the trust of a queen and the support of Lysera, he could show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. As the sun set over the alien capital, casting long shadows across the towers and fleets below, John Carter stood beside Lysera and Queen Valith. He understood that the galaxy had changed. Humans would no longer be ignored or dismissed. They were small, yes, but unstoppable when courage and determination were involved. And so, with a quiet sense of purpose, John accepted his role. Not for power, not for glory, but to show humanity in its true light. Brave, clever, and unpredictable. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. Lysera squeezed his hand. "See, humans always survive, always strong." John smiled faintly. "We do what we must, that is all." The queen looked at him and for the first time truly understood the power of humanity. One small act of courage had changed the empire, the perception of humans, and the course of events across the stars. And it had all begun with a single choice: to save a life.